Philadelphia should not exist anywhere in modern America. The country that pioneered car dependency and invented the strip mall somehow produced a city containing nearly 600,000 row houses and a metro system older than most European capitals. SEPTA carries 750,000 daily riders through dense neighborhoods where owning a car is genuinely optional rather than mandatory for survival. The average Philadelphian walks 6,000 steps daily without trying. That number is double the extremely low national average. The secret ingredient is William Penn's 1682 grid, featuring short 300-foot blocks throughout the city center. Urban planners eventually discovered that shorter blocks create more walkable streets, with better pedestrian connectivity and more retail opportunities. Penn figured this out 3 centuries earlier without any formal training. You have probably driven through endless American suburbs wondering why everything feels impossibly far apart and hostile to walking. Philadelphia proves America actually knew how to build walkable cities before the automobile industry rewrote all the rules. Then the country deliberately forgot everything and paved paradise for parking lots. The row house density means neighbors actually know each other and children walk to school safely without parental escort. Corner stores survive because foot traffic supports local businesses without requiring massive parking lots. New Orleans operates entirely on French logic trapped inside American borders for 3 centuries. The French Quarter packs 4,000 residents per square mile into charming buildings that share walls and face streets directly without setbacks or parking minimums, destroying the urban fabric. This density pattern matches Barcelona or Paris more than Houston or Phoenix. The streetcar system never stopped running because residents refused to let it disappear when other cities ripped out their tracks for highways. St. Charles Avenue carries 25,000 daily riders on vintage streetcars costing just $1.25 per trip. Corner stores still exist because local zoning never relocated them into strip mall exile on highway frontage, roads miles from residential areas. You can buy groceries, get a haircut, grab excellent coffee, and visit a bookstore without crossing a single 6-lane road or navigating a parking garage. The rest of America systematically demolished this beloved urban pattern during the destructive 1960s highway boom that prioritized automobiles over communities. Now, desperate cities spend billions trying to recreate what New Orleans never destroyed. They call it urban revitalization and hire expensive consultants. New Orleans simply calls it Tuesday. Quebec City makes the entire rest of Canada look like an imposter country pretending to have urban planning credentials. The walled Old Town predates Canadian Confederation by over 200 years and contains exactly 0 surface parking lots within its protected historic core, where cobblestone streets wind between centuries-old stone buildings. The Chateau Frontenac dominates the skyline because strict height restrictions prevented glass towers from overshadowing heritage architecture. During warmer months, 95% of Old Quebec residents regularly walk or bike to daily destinations without fighting traffic or hunting for parking spaces. That statistic would genuinely impress Amsterdam planners and seems miraculous for car-dependent North America. The funicular railway efficiently moves people 200 feet vertically because terrain demanded creative solutions beyond parking structures. You have probably visited Canadian suburbs where identical houses stretch toward every horizon and the nearest grocery store requires a 15-minute drive through traffic. Meanwhile, Toronto demolishes heritage buildings for generic condos, and Calgary spreads across prairies like melting butter. Quebec City carefully preserved what most Canadian cities eagerly bulldozed in the name of progress. The tourism revenue proves preservation pays dividends. Hobart rejected the quintessential Australian dream of infinite suburban sprawl stretching toward every distant horizon. The waterfront remains genuinely public because developers never managed to privatize every inch of coastline like they accomplished in Sydney and Melbourne. Salamanca Place converts historic stone warehouses into vibrant weekend markets instead of demolishing them for tower developments that would destroy authenticity. The entire CBD measures just 2 kilometers across, completely walkable within 25 minutes without checking maps constantly. Australia typically builds cities designed around mandatory car ownership, where public transit is an afterthought. Hobart's mountainous topography literally prevented meaningful highway expansion because tunneling through rock costs billions. The challenging terrain forced density instead of lazy sprawl extending infinitely toward the horizon. You've probably seen typical Australian suburbs requiring exhausting 40-minute drives just to reach basic services like groceries and healthcare. Hobart proves conclusively that the continent had significantly better planning options available all along. Cambridge makes ordinary British car-dependent towns look genuinely tragic by comparison. The medieval street pattern survives because nobody could widen roads without demolishing 800-year-old college buildings that attract millions of tourists annually. 40% of all trips happen by bicycle, representing the highest cycling rate anywhere in the United Kingdom by a significant margin. Students and residents share narrow cobblestone streets originally designed for horses and pedestrians, not Teslas or delivery vans blocking every available inch. The university's extensive land ownership prevented commercial sprawl from consuming the precious historic core that generates the city's identity. No big box retailers penetrate central Cambridge because there is literally no space available, and planning would reject them anyway. You have probably driven through Milton Keynes with endless roundabouts connecting to additional roundabouts and wondered if Britain forgot how to build proper cities. Milton Keynes was designed in the 1960s when planners worshipped automobiles above all else. Cambridge demonstrates that Britain's best urban design happened centuries before automobiles existed. Freiburg built the sustainable future while Germany still worshipped the almighty Autobahn and exported automotive engineering worldwide. The Vauban district eliminated street parking almost entirely in 1998 and now houses 5,500 residents who collectively own just 150 vehicles total. That calculates to 0.03 cars per person in a country where car ownership traditionally defines middle-class identity and success. Rooftop solar panels generate more energy than residents consume annually, creating net positive communities that export electricity. Efficient tram lines connect every neighborhood without requiring highway interchanges or parking structures consuming valuable land. The district started as an abandoned military base and transformed into Europe's most cited sustainable community model that delegations worldwide visit for inspiration. Children play safely in car-free streets while parents walk to work instead of sitting in traffic. You have probably assumed Germany means exclusively highways and precision automotive engineering. Freiburg proves the country can imagine transportation systems beyond internal combustion engines. Groningen banned automobiles from the city center in 1977 before any other major city dared to try something so radical. The traffic circulation plan made driving through downtown physically impossible while keeping destinations accessible by bicycle through dedicated infrastructure. 60% of all trips now happen on two wheels across the entire municipality, regardless of weather conditions. University students cycle to lectures through streets that once carried heavy automobile traffic. The policy seemed radical 5 decades ago when car ownership represented progress and freedom. Now Groningen serves as the essential planning blueprint for aspiring cities worldwide seeking alternatives to congestion and parking problems. The Netherlands essentially invented post-war suburban expansion with housing projects sprawling everywhere. Groningen stubbornly refused to participate in that national experiment. Courageous councillors deliberately chose bicycles over automobiles when both options existed. You have probably heard politicians claim cities cannot possibly change because existing infrastructure demands preservation. Groningen changed everything anyway and proved skeptics wrong. Bergen squeezed itself between dramatic fjords and steep mountains that prevented typical Norwegian suburban sprawl from developing. The historic Bergen waterfront survived devastating fires and real estate speculation to remain a UNESCO World Heritage Site, generating tourism revenue exceeding infrastructure costs. Narrow medieval streets climb steep hillsides where parking garages cannot physically exist without destroying the mountain. The funicular railway moves commuters vertically because constructing highways through solid rock costs billions. Bergen proves geographic constraints often create better cities than unlimited flat terrain where developers face zero restrictions. Norway generally spreads suburbs wherever mountains permit and budgets allow. Bergen demonstrates what happens when terrain forces genuine creativity instead of permitting lazy sprawl. The entire historic center measures 1 kilometer across and welcomes 80,000 daily visitors who never touch an automobile during their visit. Subscribe for more urban reality checks. See you in the next one.